Just in case you were just joining the show, this is the conversation on News Central Television, where we keep you up to speed with the political happenings across Africa. At this point, we will be moving to Kenya, where President William Ruto appears to have made himself popular on the international stage as an ally to the Western nations, according to some experts, particularly since his stance against Russia-Ukraine war. However, at home, he has had a challenging year, taking office on September 12, 2022. He has had to grapple with protest by opposition led by Raila Odinga, and also the rising food cost in the country. And in addition to that, the rise in taxes and the increase in fuel prices after subsidy removal. Some experts are actually saying that Ruto has lost a lot of support at home and that it is time for him to listen to the electorate. Now joining me on the show to, of course, shed more light on this is Wanga, coordinator, Usalama Reforms Forum, and Juma Omondi, Executive Director, Global Peace Foundation, all from Kenya. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. I would like to start off with you, Daniel. How would you rate President William Ruto's administration so far?
Thank you very much. It's 1 year, exactly 1 year since President Ruto was sworn in office. And within that 1 year, he has been able to meet some promises that he gave. He gave lots and lots of promises. Exactly the day of his inauguration, he was able to appoint Court of Appeal judges who were not appointed by the previous regime. He was able to give the police financial autonomy. He gave financial autonomy to the judiciary. He has been able to put Kenya on the world map. Recently, he just hosted the Africa Climate Summit, where he brought in no less than 23 heads of state coming to Nairobi. And he basically led Africa into having a single voice on matters of climate change. He has also been able to stabilize the country. As you know, the opposition had been leading protests against what they call the cost of living. And President Ruto of late has been able to convince Raila Odinga and the opposition to come to the table and be able to negotiate a settlement for some of the grievances that the opposition had. So I am able, I know we have mixed ratings, but one of the opinion companies, TIFA, gave President Ruto 55%. And of course, we have had others giving him C. But personally, I would not be able to judge him harshly. I think he has been able, within that 1 year, to put the necessary preparations in place for the country to be able to take off. One of the problems we have had is the number of taxations that has been introduced. That is the housing levy, which is 3%, and right now, of course, there are plans to increase more levy. As we are talking, the fuel has gone up. Actually, today, fuel hit more than 200 shillings because he removed the subsidy, which was able to cushion motorists from high fuels. So we are hoping that moving forward, the president can be able to, again, look at areas where he can be able to give Kenyans relief and cushion them from the high cost of living.
All right, Daniel, I just want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what would you give President William Ruto?
I think I'll give him 6.
A 6?
I'll give him 6.
Okay,
yes.
Fair enough. Let's seek Caleb's opinion on all of this. Caleb, what's your take?
Okay, thank you so much for this time. One, I will agree with Daniel on certain aspects, but also disagree with him on certain aspects. Number one, the primary duty of a president is to inspire national unity in a country. And as a person who has worked in the governance sector, there is still a huge challenge in terms of national integration, cohesiveness of Kenyans. The president has done much, yes, within the first year. I know he has struggled to to enhance the image of the country at the international level. But remember, there are challenges. Some of the things that the president could be pursuing, like climate change, very few Kenyans can easily relate to those issues. Kenyans are looking for basic needs to survive. The cost of life has increased. The president promised a lot during campaigns. Now the president is facing a serious challenge on implementing some of the promises. And like the issue of human rights compliance, respect for human rights. Within this short time, we saw how the police managed the demonstration against high cost of living, and how young people were shot dead. And sadly, the president cheered the police on, saying that they did the right thing. I doubt that is a very good beginning for a president that is just starting his reign. It is not good. Issue of taxation, the people raised a lot of issues during the parliamentary stage of developing the budget. A lot of people raised the issues of certain aspects of the task, which the president and his party just ignored. And now you see the cost of fuel has gone up like 30% more since the time Ruto got into power. They have not been able to explain to people anything regarding this. It's just arrogance. That is the sad aspect of it. Corruption is still rife in the public sector. Every day we read cases of people stealing money. So we still have a lot of work to do in order to build confidence. Crime is going high. Young people are jobless. The joblessness is continuing. Management of public education, university education. There is a lot of confusion in terms of cost for university education. And I think the president had gotten certain policy issues extremely wrong. And we hope that he's going to listen to himself first before he listens to the public.
All right, I would like to stay, with you, Caleb. You made mention of some key or pivotal issues. You said that he has not been able to, of course, foster national cohesion. I would like you to, explain more on that. And also you talked about climate change, which of course he is pushing, and quite a number of Kenyans are not able to relate to that because that is not really what they, really want to look at right now. Are you saying that in a way, the president has some sort of misplaced priority when it comes to looking up issues, particularly for Kenyans? And finally, what figure on a scale of 1 to 10 would you rate the president? To you, Caleb.
Beginning with your last question on how I would rate the president, I would give the president 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10?
The president has not performed very well.
Wow.
3. Global climate change is a global problem facing humanity. It's not just a Kenyan problem. But relating that to a person who lacks basic needs, what to eat, is a very, very big far-fetched. Probably the president would have begun a lot by looking at the basic things facing the common Kenyan, like the prices of food, the issues of health, and taxation that is just going up and up. So a lot of basic things. Actually, it's like if you are employed in Kenya, it's a time to deploy because the tax that is coming without your consent are just there every day. And these are challenges that we are dealing with that probably the president would have looked through and would have started to deal with the basic problem before going to the international stage, which is just for PR, if I may say, because some of the things are so heavy, things at the global level is dealing with are so heavy that I doubt he has even capacity to influence.
All right, but won't you also want to say that the president actually cannot be blamed for all of this? I mean, he might have inherited some problems, right, from the previous administration, and it's just 1 year. And we also know what happened recently in the world. Many countries are trying to come out of COVID, the global economic crisis, the surge in the price of oil, the war, between Russia and Ukraine. I mean, you might just also want to say this entirely might not be the president's fault. I'm still staying with you, Caleb.
President, yes, COVID has been a lazy excuse a lot of governments have used to cover themselves up.
Amazing
Number
excuse.
one, my brother, you must understand the president has been the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya for the last 10 years. Some of the things that he's blaming the previous administration. He has been the second in command. He has been the deputy president of Uhuru Kenyatta. So how do you delink him from the mistakes of the previous government? The narrative of handshake between the former president and the opposition leader was used as an excuse to ride emotions for elections. But basically, the deputy, he has been the deputy president. How do you separate him from the past mistakes of like issues of picking debts, collecting debts that has not even, there has been a request to audit even debts whether part of the monies that were picked from lenders were used properly. Nobody wants to discuss that, and he has been part of that government. How does he run away from it?
All right. I mean, I would like to go back to Daniel right now, right? Daniel, I mean, feel free if you, of course, would like to react to some of the things Caleb said. But to you, Daniel, I'd like to say that the president actually hit the ground running with some hard economic reforms. One of such is the petrol subsidy, a removal issue that, of course, affected virtually everybody. How would you particularly, rate this reform?
Thank you. The issue of subsidy is one of the issues that the president in his campaign, he had promised that he will get rid of subsidies, because subsidies, especially when misused, really hurt the economy. And the fuel subsidies, of course, were going into pockets of selected oil dealers. And in his campaign, he said this was not sustainable. So he made a promise that he would be able to get rid of the subsidies. I know that even in Nigeria, the new president removed fuel subsidies. So right now, I think that the cost of fuel, even though he may have, he may wish to be able to sort them out locally, but this is international. The cost of crude oil is really, really up. And today we were just told that fuel is going to be going up every month by 10 shillings. So I think Kenyans need to be able to prepare, for that. But when it comes to what you asked about inheriting some of the problems from the previous administration, it is true that the issue of the high cost of living did not begin with this administration. Actually, most of these were with the previous administration, and we are not blaming the previous administration. But the thing is that President Ruto had to be able to put in place fiscal policies to be able to get the nation to be able to pay off the debts. Some of the debts that we're talking about, really huge debts, especially from China. So this president has been able to talk to the World Bank, IMF, and originally, if you listen to the initial speeches, we were not able to borrow because we did not have some good creditworthiness. But he has been able to stabilize the economy, and now we are able to have good rating with the IMF. Actually, some of the fiscal the policies are being brought about by the IMF. So I think that we need to give the president time. 1 year is not enough. And within this 1 year, we have had disruptions led by the opposition. The same opposition, if they were in power today, they would not do better. So they have not given evidence to show that if they were in power today, the economy would be much better. So I'm thinking that since it is just 1 year, we need to give the president 2 more years so that he can be able to deliver on the plan. Because running a nation is different from, governing is actually different from campaign promises. Some of the promises that the president made were just promises. But once you've been elected to office, you have to start.
Why make promises you think or you can keep?
This is a problem not just for
because
Kenya,
governance
Africa
is serious business, you'd say.
Politicians do this all the time. They give promises. They make all sorts of promises. But when it is time to govern, you now get to see the reality. So I'm very sure that the administration has been able to recalibrate some of the promises that they gave, and now that they're they're in power, they can see how much money they have, they can see the debts that we need to pay, they can see the amount of revenue we have to collect, and that is one of the reasons why even they have to raise taxes, because we have to be able to raise the revenue to be able to pay for running this nation and for paying off our debts.
All right, I want to go to you, Caleb, right? But this time around, I will still pose the same question to you, but just a bit of addition, right? You would also want to say that international price, is also affecting the way the price of crude oil, goes up or down, the way the price of petrol goes, up, or swings in the local scene. Would you also want to say, to an extent, it's beyond the control, absolute control of the president, to control fuel price? Hence, some hard decisions like removing subsidy and all of that, hitting hard on Kenyans and all, you'd want to say it's beyond the president entirely.
Let me tell you one thing about pricing even of oil. You find a liter of petrol now selling at around 211 shillings. That is like $1. Our exchange, our Kenya shilling has gone so weak. 211 shillings. Let me just give that explanation using Kenyan shillings. Out of 211 shillings, you'd find around 100 shillings is taxes. Why can't we deal with taxes within the oil sector to help reduce the cost so that we can also push on the common man to live? Number two, we cannot blame the international prices. Why is fuel cheaper in Uganda than in Kenya? Does Ugandans scoop oil from rivers and then they use them? It is purely about taxation, and these are deliberate policies that a government needs to undertake to help deal with the costs. Because if the cost of fuel continue going up, cost of doing business will be so high, it means businesses will run down, people will lose jobs, the government will lose the same taxes that they are seeking from the manufacturers. Right now in the evening, even the Kenya Association of Manufacturers have cautioned the president from this increasing taxation. It's making Kenya as a country very unfriendly for investors. People are shifting to Tanzania purely because of the cost of fuel, and all of these things are based on excessive taxation. You cannot tax a country to reach to wealth. By overtaxing people, you are generating poverty, you are generating crime in the society. How will a business environment thrive in an environment that is full of crime? So we cannot use the excuse of international prices only as a way of reducing the cost of living in Kenya. I've heard my brother talking about opposition disrupting government. When citizens rise up to raise their voices against the cost of living, should they just keep quiet? If we keep quiet, that is the slavery. We will be getting into slavery. So we have our constitution give us the right to express ourselves. If expressing ourselves means disrupting the government, that might be a very, very defeatist.
I think I would like to stay on that with you, Caleb. Now, let's talk about the current administration, handling of protests led by opposition leader Raila Odinga. How would you rate his handling of these protests vis-a-vis human rights?
It is horrible because we never expected to see this kind of thing after passing of the new constitution in Kenya. We have been battling with the reforms in the policing sector so that we have accountable policing, accountable policing. Now the police is going ahead to shoot people that are unarmed purely because they are defending a regime. In this time of the century with our new constitution, it is a horrible thing that we never expected to see. Our president had promised to deal with police excesses, including extrajudicial killings that were happening in their other regime where he was part of. So we hope that this thing will end. Now we see the police continue killing people, and the national leaders are supporting the police. The Inspector General of Police He's bragging that nothing can be done to him, even if he's taken to ICC for killing innocent people. We never expected this, and I just wonder how far, if this is the way they are going to continue running the government. I doubt. Now people are hungry, people do not have food. The president, people are just running around, flying around the world. Both the president and the deputy are out of the country now. They don't bother what people are saying. If people
wouldn't you also want to say, I'm sorry, Caleb, I'm sorry to quote in here, but wouldn't you also want to say that probably the opposition too don't also know when to draw the line, right? There's a part of protest, and then there's a part of dialogue where you retract and then you go to the round table and then you discuss, right? Some might argue that it appears like the opposition is just trying in a way to make the administration ungovernable. What's your take?
I think that can be, this is politics. It can be true, it might not be true, because politics is about competition, and how you can bring down your opponent can be always a strategy for any politician, whether you are in power or out of power. But remember now, if you see that now there's a dialogue framework that has been developed, and it is going on, we don't know how it will end, because the dialogue process, the both parties, the government and the opposition are on the table, but out of the table, you hear the president saying this, you have the deputy president that has been quite careless even in his talks, the deputy president that declared that the country has shareholders, so the people who supported the ground, a few tribes, could feel 80% of the government against the rest.
All right.
Now, it is very difficult to assess at this moment how far even the dialogue talks will go, because the people who are supposed to provide leadership are the ones that continue abusing each other.
All right. I want to go to Daniel. What's your take? Do you beg to differ on some of the things Caleb has said, or do you also share similar opinion, particularly how the administration is treating opposition vis-a-vis human rights?
I agree with Caleb on the issue of police brutality of handling protests. The Kenyan police has not been very professional in handling the protests. Protests are allowed by the Article 37 of the Constitution. The people have a right to protest peacefully, and the Kenyan police has failed in that aspect. And as civil society, we have been calling upon the police to be able to protect not just the government building, but also protect human lives. So the police must be on the forefront of ensuring that people are protesting peacefully. So our police system is still not very professional. And the police seems to be, even though they're independent, but our police seems to be thinking that they belong to the president, to the government in power. And I can tell you for free, even if Raila Odinga was president today, the police would do the things that Raila Odinga and the opposition party tell them to do. This is a problem in Africa. And having known this is the problem that I've also been giving advice to the opposition. Having known that our police are still not professional enough, why do you tell our young people to go out to the roads and throw stones and with sufurias on their heads, and then they are killed by the police? So it is a responsibility of even the opposition parties, because we know our police is not professional. They are rogue, actually. You know, it is the responsibility of Raila Odinga and the opposition to ensure that you do not get our young people to the streets to be killed. You know, and that's one of the reasons why dialogue is important. We have been encouraging them to go to the table, because even though you go out protesting, eventually change will come when both parties sit on the dialogue table and decide to talk about some of these issues. Yeah.
All right. Before I let you go, gentlemen, I would like you to keep it really brief. There are speculations that the president, to some extent, might be dancing to the strings of Western powers, particularly, on issues of the war in Ukraine, where he seems to have taken sides, right? And also some, international key issues. What's your take? I would like to start with you, of course, Caleb, and then, of course, I'll get the thoughts of Daniel.
Okay. Yeah, the fact that the president could be dancing to the international community, this has also been my feeling. Maybe I don't know whether the president might have not been aware of the enormity of the global interest or global politics. And sometimes I feel that he has rushed so fast. Maybe he could have taken his time to understand deeply these international dynamics, and he would have gone slow, because sometimes I feel that they are making some diplomatic gaffes regarding the international affairs, rushing into matters of Ukraine and Russia, sometimes the regional issues. So sometimes I feel that the president is rushing. He could have taken his time before rushing around. Sometimes I also feel that some of these international players could be taking advantage of him being a new kid in the block, and eager to make a presence in the international stage. But maybe he will learn with the time that international politics are quite different from Kenyan politics.
What's your take, of course, on this, Daniel? Daniel, if you can hear me, please kindly unmute so that we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, very well.
Yeah. The president is on the right side of history. The problem in Ukraine, Russia attacking Ukraine, a sovereign country, is wrong, however way you look at it. It's about sovereignty of the country. In this civilization, we cannot allow one country just to go and occupy another country or just attack another country the way Russia is doing. So I think the president is right to be able to stand with the West on the issue of Ukraine. It's a human rights issue, it's an international issue, and it's on the right side of the right side of history. The era where we are living in, we can never allow total, dictatorship and totalitarianism to rule, to reign, and this is why those who are supporting Russia in this war against Ukraine are basically giving up on human rights, on freedom, and I think history will judge them very, very harshly. So I think the president is right to be able to be to be on the side of our Western allies. These are our traditional allies, and I think there's nothing wrong with making friends with the Western allies, and of course doing business with with China, Russia, as we have always done.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.